Prison gangs are some of the most ruthless and dangerous organizations in the world, operating behind bars with an iron grip and extending their influence far beyond prison walls. These groups are built on extreme loyalty, violence, and a rigid hierarchy where betrayal is met with swift and brutal punishment. Over the years, some prison gangs have risen to infamous levels, controlling drug trafficking, extortion, and even ordering murders from within maximum security facilities. Their power often rivals that of organized crime groups on the outside, making them some of the most feared criminal organizations in existence. One of the most notorious prison gangs in history is the Aryan Brotherhood. Founded in the 1960s inside San Quentin State Prison, the gang was initially formed for protection against other groups but quickly evolved into a violent criminal enterprise. With a strict white supremacist ideology, the Aryan Brotherhood enforces its rules through extreme violence, including stabbings, beatings, and orchestrated murders. Despite making up less than 1% of the U.S. prison population, the Aryan Brotherhood is responsible for an estimated 20% of all prison murders. The Mexican Mafia, or La IM, is another deadly prison gang that has left a trail of bloodshed inside and outside prison walls. Established in the late 1950s by Mexican-American inmates in California, La IM operates with military precision, enforcing strict rules and eliminating anyone who dares to cross them. Members of the Mexican Mafia wield enormous power in the California prison system, controlling drug trade, gambling, and protection rackets with an iron fist. Orders from high-ranking members, often referred to as carnales, can result in executions carried out without hesitation. The Black Guerrilla Family, BGF, stands out as a politically motivated prison gang, originally formed in 1966 by George Jackson in California's San Quentin Prison. Unlike other prison gangs, the BGF was founded on Marxist and revolutionary ideals with the goal of overthrowing the U.S. government and fighting against systemic oppression. Despite its political origins, the BGF is deeply involved in criminal activities, including drug trafficking and murder. Its members are known for their extreme discipline and unwavering loyalty to the organization's mission. The Texas Syndicate, founded in the early 1970s, emerged as a response to the growing influence of other prison gangs, particularly the Mexican Mafia. Initially formed by Hispanic inmates in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, the Texas Syndicate operates with strict codes of conduct, emphasizing secrecy and obedience. This gang is notorious for carrying out assassinations of rivals and traitors, often in the most brutal ways imaginable. Their influence extends to drug smuggling and extortion operations both inside and outside prison walls. Another feared gang is the Nuestra Familia, which was formed in the 1960s as a rival to the Mexican Mafia. Made up primarily of Northern California Hispanic inmates, Nuestra Familia follows a strict military-style hierarchy. Leaders, often referred to as generals, run the gang with a cold and calculating approach, making strategic decisions that can result in mass killings or orchestrated attacks on law enforcement. Nuestra Familia's influence extends beyond prison, with street gangs acting as their foot soldiers in drug distribution and enforcement activities. The Maras, specifically Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13, and Barrio 18, have also solidified their presence within the prison system, particularly in the United States and Central America. Originally formed by Salvadoran immigrants in Los Angeles, MS-13 became known for its extreme violence and lack of mercy toward its enemies. Their motto, Mata, Roba, Viola, Controla, Kill, Steal, Rape, Control, is a chilling testament to their brutality. In prisons across El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, MS-13 members continue to orchestrate kidnappings, assassinations, and extortion operations. In Brazil, one of the most powerful prison gangs is the Primeiro Comando de Capital, PCC. Founded in the 1990s inside São Paulo's prison system, the PCC quickly expanded into one of South America's most dangerous criminal organizations. The gang operates under a strict code of conduct, punishing disobedience with swift and violent retaliation. The PCC has been responsible for some of the deadliest prison riots in Brazil's history, including coordinated attacks against police officers and government institutions. The Red Command, Comando Vermelho, another Brazilian prison gang, emerged in the 1970s and has since grown into a dominant force in organized crime. With deep connections to the drug trade in Rio de Janeiro's favelas, the Red Command uses its prison-based leadership to control large-scale trafficking operations. The gang is known for its well-coordinated attacks, including deadly prison breakouts and assassinations of high-ranking officials. Los Zetas, originally a paramilitary group for the Gulf Cartel, evolved into a powerful criminal organization with a strong presence in Mexican prisons. With former Special Forces members among its ranks, Los Zetas became notorious for their extreme tactics, including beheadings and torture. Their presence in Mexican prisons allows them to control entire facilities, using corruption and fear to dominate both inmates and prison staff. The Nitas, a prison gang that originated in Puerto Rico, has a long history of violent confrontations with rival groups such as the Latin Kings. Founded in the 1970s as a self-defense group against prison abuse, the Nitas eventually became a full-fledged criminal organization. They maintain a strong influence in both Puerto Rico and the United States, engaging in drug trafficking, extortion, and violent turf wars. Throughout history, prison gangs have maintained a level of control that often exceeds what law enforcement can contain. Their reach extends far beyond prison walls, impacting communities through drug distribution networks, organized crime, and even political corruption. Many of these gangs operate as highly disciplined organizations with leadership structures that ensure their survival and continued dominance. While prison authorities attempt to dismantle these organizations, the deeply embedded power of these gangs makes it nearly impossible to fully eradicate them. The cycle of violence, recruitment, and organized crime continues, with each new generation of inmates becoming potential soldiers for these ruthless groups. Some gangs have even adapted to modern technology, using encrypted communication and online networks to coordinate their criminal enterprises. In many cases, gang members who are released from prison continue working for the organization, further strengthening their influence in the streets. Many of these individuals remain loyal to their gangs for life, as leaving often results in death. The consequences of this loyalty can be seen in the high number of gang-related homicides, both inside and outside of prison. The role of prison gangs in drug trafficking cannot be overstated. Many of these organizations have direct connections to major cartels, acting as enforcers or distributors for illicit substances. The Mexican Mafia, Aryan Brotherhood, and Nuestra Familia, for example, have all been linked to large-scale drug operations, moving heroin, cocaine, and methamphetamine across state lines and international borders. Extortion is another key aspect of prison gang operations. Inmates who refuse to align with a gang often have to pay for protection, sending money to gang leaders' families or street affiliates. Failure to comply can lead to severe beatings, stabbings, or even execution. The level of control exerted by these gangs is so absolute that even correctional officers sometimes find themselves under threat. Some prison gangs have developed sophisticated money laundering operations, using legitimate businesses and underground financial networks to conceal their profits. These funds are often reinvested into drug trafficking, weapons purchases, and bribery schemes to ensure their continued dominance. High-ranking gang members behind bars may never physically touch the money, but they orchestrate massive financial operations through coded messages and trusted intermediaries on the outside. One way prison gangs maintain their power is through a structured hierarchy that enforces absolute obedience. Low-ranking members, often referred to as soldiers, carry out the gang's dirty work, including assaults, murders, and smuggling contraband. Mid-level members, sometimes called enforcers or lieutenants, oversee operations within different prison units, ensuring that all orders from high-ranking leaders, who are sometimes called generals or shot callers, are executed without hesitation. Some gangs, like the Aryan Brotherhood and the Mexican Mafia, have structured themselves so effectively that they operate similarly to corporate organizations, with clearly defined leadership roles, strategic planning, and contingency measures in place in case leaders are killed or imprisoned in solitary confinement. This level of organization allows them to continue running operations even when facing crackdowns from prison authorities. Prison gangs are also notorious for their use of coded messages to communicate within and outside prison walls. These messages may be embedded in letters, legal documents, or even verbal exchanges with visitors. Some gangs use a numeric code system where numbers correspond to letters, while others use symbols, tattoos, or hand signals to convey orders discreetly. This level of secrecy makes it difficult for law enforcement to intercept critical gang communications. Recruitment into these gangs often begins at a young age, with gang members on the outside targeting vulnerable youth. Many new recruits enter prison already affiliated with a gang, making it easier for them to integrate into the prison hierarchy. Once inside, they must prove their loyalty through acts of violence, often being ordered to attack a rival or even kill an inmate to gain full membership. Violence is not just a tool of enforcement for prison gangs, it is a currency of power. The ability to carry out brutal attacks without hesitation earns respect within the gang and instills fear in rivals. Some gangs have initiation rituals that include beatings, stabbings, or committing a violent act against an enemy. Once inducted, members are bound to the gang for life, with very few ever successfully leaving without severe consequences. The racial divisions in many prison gangs further fuel the violence. Gangs like the Aryan Brotherhood, Black Guerrilla Family, and Mexican Mafia all enforce strict racial boundaries, forbidding members from associating with other ethnic groups outside of business transactions. These racial tensions often lead to large-scale prison riots where multiple gangs clash in bloody battles that can leave dozens dead or injured. Despite being behind bars, many prison gang leaders wield more power than some organized crime figures on the outside. From inside maximum security facilities, they direct assassinations, oversee drug shipments, and coordinate mass extortion efforts. Some even exploit corrupt prison guards, bribing them to smuggle in drugs, cell phones, and weapons. These guards, once compromised, often find themselves trapped under the gang's control, fearing retaliation if they refuse to cooperate. The influence of prison gangs extends beyond the prison system, reaching into the broader criminal underworld. Street gangs often serve as the foot soldiers of prison gangs, carrying out orders in exchange for protection and resources. These relationships create a cycle where gang members move between prison and the streets seamlessly, keeping the organization alive even when key members are incarcerated. In certain countries, prison gangs have become so powerful that they challenge the government itself. In El Salvador, MS-13 and Barrio 18 have reached a level of control where they impose their own taxes on businesses and enforce curfews in communities. In Brazil, the PCC has launched coordinated attacks against police forces, demonstrating their ability to operate as a paramilitary force rather than just a criminal gang. One of the deadliest tools prison gangs have at their disposal is the ability to order killings with absolute anonymity. A gang leader in solitary confinement can still send a message through layers of intermediaries, ensuring that a hit is carried out efficiently. These assassinations are not always limited to rival gang members. Witnesses, judges, prosecutors, and even law enforcement officials have been targeted for elimination. Cell phones are among the most valuable contraband items in prison, allowing gang members to communicate with the outside world in real time. Smuggled in by corrupt guards, visitors, or drones, these devices enable gangs to coordinate drug shipments, organize killings, and oversee business operations. Some gang leaders even use social media platforms to send encrypted messages, making it harder for authorities to track their activities. The culture of silence within prison gangs makes them even more difficult to dismantle. Snitching is seen as the ultimate betrayal, and anyone suspected of cooperating with authorities is swiftly executed. This rule extends beyond prison. Former gang members who turn informant often live in fear for the rest of their lives, as the gang's reach can extend across states and even international borders. Prison riots are often triggered by gang conflicts, with fights breaking out over control of drug sales, perceived insults, or racial tensions. These riots can escalate into full-scale warfare, with inmates using makeshift weapons such as shanks, pipes, and even boiling water to attack their enemies. Some of the deadliest prison riots in history have been orchestrated by gang leaders looking to make a statement or eliminate rivals. Some gangs use religion or ideology as a recruiting tool. The Black Guerrilla Family, for example, promotes black liberation and political activism, attracting recruits who feel oppressed by the system. The Aryan Brotherhood manipulates white nationalist beliefs to maintain loyalty, while groups like the Mexican Mafia present themselves as protectors of their community. These ideologies serve as powerful motivators, ensuring that members remain committed to the cause. Solitary confinement is often used as a method to isolate gang leaders, but in many cases it has little effect. Some gang leaders continue to run operations even while locked away for 23 hours a day. The most dedicated members will go to extreme lengths to ensure that communication remains unbroken, using elaborate smuggling methods or hidden codes to keep their criminal enterprises running. As prison gangs evolve, law enforcement agencies continue to struggle with dismantling them. Every major crackdown seems to be met with new strategies from gang leaders who adapt quickly to changing conditions. Even when high-ranking members are given life sentences, the gang structure often ensures that someone else will take their place, maintaining the cycle of crime. The brutality of prison gangs is a reflection of the harsh environment in which they thrive. In many overcrowded and underfunded prison systems, inmates see gang membership as the only way to survive. The promise of protection, financial gain, and a sense of belonging make it difficult for inmates to resist the pull of these dangerous organizations. Efforts to rehabilitate gang members are met with mixed success. Some former members leave the lifestyle behind and work to prevent others from joining, but many find it nearly impossible to escape the gang's reach. The threat of retaliation looms over anyone attempting to break free, and for many, the only way out is through witness protection or relocation. Prison gangs remain one of the most powerful forces in the criminal underworld, their influence stretching across prison walls and into the streets. With their ability to adapt, recruit, and execute orders with deadly efficiency, they continue to pose one of the greatest challenges to law enforcement and correctional institutions worldwide. The brutal reality of prison gangs serves as a reminder that incarceration does not always mean the end of criminal activity. In many cases, it is just the beginning. Gangs use the prison system as a breeding ground for new recruits, ensuring that their legacy of violence and crime continues for generations to come.